Investing is all about using as many tools as you can to get what you would think is an advantage to help you get better returns. And AI is coming to the picture and throwing a wrench into all of that, offering insane efficiency and potentially the ability to make your portfolio perform better than top managers could do. I mean, that has been one of the biggest topics ever since ChatGPT became a thing, is using it to pick stocks. You can see this saying it can pick stocks better than your fund manager, and someone is actually putting that to the test with their own money. They have taken $50,000, gave it to ChatGPT, prompted and everything, and is now seeing how this new ChatGPT AI portfolio will actually perform. And like it says right here, the fund officially went live today and is already outperforming the SPY index, the S&P 500. And I think that this could be interesting to see how it plays out, see what can happen. But over the long term is where we'd have to look, because everybody typically loses over the long term to the index. No matter how great you are, usually the S&P 500 becomes a better investment over 10, 20, 30 years than whatever fund managers got thrown together. So I'd imagine it'd probably be a similar outcome, that this would happen unless the AI is making everything so efficient that it's just better than what people could ever try and do. But this is how they picked the stocks that they decided to do, saying that they identified 20 stocks after analyzing over 10,000, and then used ChatGPT's API of 3.5, analyzed the recent stock news articles, and gave each individual stock a sentiment score, and then they had a graded list of all the stocks. So they basically took 10,000 some odd stocks, put them into ChatGPT to analyze them, and then gave more specific stuff after they picked these other stocks, and gave them more specific information, maybe balance sheets, cash flows, earnings reports stuff, all of that type of things. And they got this list right here of this fund, and you can see it just lists a bunch of stuff. And every time you seem to use AI, this seems to be a pretty big theme, is that it just picks the biggest companies in the world, right? Which is typical, because those are the ones performing the best over a long period of time. And even recently, a lot of other companies have collapsed, and the big companies are the ones that haven't fallen as hard. This was the prompt that they gave ChatGPT to get it to analyze different companies and stuff. And this one's for Apple, and then told it to be a financial expert and everything. But this, once you give it these types of prompts, these are the results you would get. Kind of, this one's for Berkshire Hathaway, gave it a score 9. Their financial statement analysis says it's a strong balance sheet with assets of 997 billion, equity of 513 billion. It's kind of like running through the financials of a company, the balance sheet and stuff. So it's not like it's predicting things and is being super accurate. It's kind of just going over past things, which could end up being a problem. This is another example of another company with, they got an 8 score, and it just kind of does the same thing. So the big question here would be, is this something that's going to be able to actually, predict things? Because that's what the stock market and investments are all about, looking into the future and what the future could be. So if you have this AI that's super efficient and spectacular at doing things, but all it can do is analyze what's happened in the past, maybe that's not the best tool. Maybe it's not going to help you the best, because you're not looking to go into the past. It's easy to look into the past and see what did good. The hard part is looking into the future and trying to predict what could do good. And someone actually made that point here, responding to this whole thread of the ChatGPT investment portfolio, saying what makes this overall thesis kind of boring is that it's only using data on what has already happened. That means everything will be priced in, and if it's why we see its choices being exactly what anyone would choose. Would be much more interesting to have a ChatGPT analyze non-traditional data to find signal in the noise and make unorthodox calls, which maybe that is the next step. Maybe that's where people can go, because obviously for decades hedge fund managers and money managers have been trying to beat the stock market, and the vast majority fail. It's over 90% don't beat the S&P 500, and that's because they're analyzing all this data and all this past stuff, and making predictions is not easy. But maybe there's a world where, instead of using this ChatGPT or AI, whatever one you have, choose to use, Instead of using it to look at financial information, which everyone's been doing for decades, maybe put it out to social sentiment and what people feel and are talking about. Maybe run it through Twitter and see what people are talking about a product, if people like it, if people hate it, because that could be a better indicator of what's going to happen in the future. If people are loving a new product, then that company might be doing better in the future, might have better than expected sales, might continue to grow. And if people are absolutely hating something and are clowning on it and saying how terrible it is, maybe that could be an indicator to the company not growing as much. Maybe sales are declining, things aren't going so well. So that would be an interesting thing for someone to use an AI to look at other signals, because we know the ones that people have been using haven't been able to beat the market. And obviously, chances are it wouldn't be that simple. If you looked at sentiment and saw that it was good, it's not going to necessarily mean that the company is going to be fantastic in the future. So obviously, it's not that easy and it would be pretty hard. But if you took a bunch of different sources, a bunch of different sentiments, a bunch of different kind of factors that don't rely just on finances in the company, maybe that could give you a different signal or a better signal or something that people aren't looking at, which could give you your advantage. And they even launched something where if you wanted to use this and invest in the ChatGPT portfolio, I think you actually can. This is the ChatGPT fund they have. You can invest on there. I think they use Robinhood. It'll like put everything, all the stocks that it picked. It weighs them all 5% equally. So that's just how this is going to work, I guess. And you can see here they got over $5 million invested in this ChatGPT fund and almost 10,000 investors. So maybe this is the future. Maybe this is where we're all heading. We're all just going to go on to an AI and say, figure out the best stuff. Here's X amount of money. Here's $100 a week, $200 a week, $1,000 a week, and say, you do what you think is best, and just to have AI managing all of our money. Or we could see this test kind of crash and burn and see that it's not even as good as hedge fund managers, which would mean it's even worse than just investing in an index. That could be another outcome too, and maybe we avoid AI altogether. Who knows which way this is going to go. But that's going to do it for this video. As always, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.